The Agweek Market Wrap is sponsored by Gateway Building Systems.
Welcome to the Agweek Market Wrap, brought to you by Gateway Building Systems. I'm Don Wick with the Red River Farm Network. Randy Martinson is our guest, president of Martinson Ag Risk Management. And Randy, I think we need to start with those outside markets. It was a bit of a crazy week with the Fed making the interest rate announcement, going up 0.75 of a percentage point. The Dow took a big change off of that. We saw crude oil this week making some pretty big moves. What's your take on what's happening in those outside markets, and what does it mean for the ag commodities?
That's a really good question. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that 0.75 point, that was started to get hint about taking place later or around early this week. So it was kind of a surprise to the market. It really sent shockwaves through through the stock market, the Dow. All three of the major indexes trading trading into bear territory and losing significant ground. At this point, in the way that Powell talked after the meeting, it sounds like we're going to probably see another 0.75 point hike in the next meeting, and then likely a 0.5 point after that. So we are going to be looking at a lot being thrown at this to try to curb this inflation. Now, it didn't seem like it slowed down some of the markets. Crude, I think, still had a fairly good day that day, but now, as we close out the week, it's under some major pressure here on Friday.
Well, we've got some heat coming our direction, so weather's obviously the other big story. While it's hasn't been a real hot spring and summer season for us in our region, it has been in other parts of the country. This weather market really kind of cranking up this week.
It is, and everybody's in the same boat as far as late planting, and so this is going to have I think some long lasting effects on the corn and the soybean crop that is just getting planted. Of course, Nebraska has had some terrible storms, with hail basically wiping out a lot of their corn, and they're going in and replanting corn. Well, you follow up with this heat, and that's going to, their yield potential is going to drop significantly as they go forward. So it's going to be very interesting. Right now it looks like we're going to only get hit this weekend with some intense heat, which, right now for us probably isn't a bad thing because we need to get some heat to get caught up a little bit. But the Corn Belt, talking to some producers in Illinois, they're looking at 15 days of 90 degrees with no rain. The corn isn't canopied. They're a little worried that they could start to see things go backwards as well.
Randy, of course, markets are closed Monday for the Juneteenth holiday. I think something new for the markets anyway. Going into a 3-day weekend, looking at these warm temperatures, how does that impact us as we go into that trade, I guess, for Tuesday morning or Monday night?
Well, looking at it, I think that's why we kind of had a little more of a sell-off on Friday than what was anticipated. The harvest progress and a little bit of expected to see more harvest activity for the winter wheat put more pressure, I think, on the wheat market than what would have been normal. Then we did see some traders take money off the table and go home with some change in their pocket. I think once you see some verification on Monday of this heat and if no rain systems do appear, I think this market's going to see a pretty sharp higher open on Monday night.
Here at the network, we talked to some custom harvesters this week and heard some just horrendous yields coming out of the winter wheat in Kansas in particular. Is the trade taking a look at really what's coming off the combine at this point?
Not yet, they're not. We're just really getting into Kansas, and we knew Oklahoma and Texas was going to be pretty rough. They were hoping that Kansas, especially the central and eastern, would show up a little bit better. Yeah, we knew Southwest would be bad, but I think the market, once we start getting a little more yield results out of Kansas, that will start to drive the market. And right now, I think this weekend we'll start to see a lot more of those.
Certainly, we saw some rain early week that most likely shut down any planting that was still trying to get done here. You got a handle when you take a look at the Dakotas, Minnesota, Northwest Minnesota in particular. What's that mean to the crop mix or acreage in our footprint?
From what I'm gathering, and even driving around looking at some of the crop out there, in talking to the producers, I think we're a little short on our wheat crop, our spring wheat. Not all of it got planted because it was just too wet for too long. Same scenario plays out for the corn. I do know some guys that were looking at more corn acres, switched some of those to wheat because they had a little longer planting period. But I do expect that, when you look at the Northern Plains, we're going to see less wheat, less corn. We're going to see more soybeans and more sunflowers. And those markets, we started to actually get dry and actually improve our able to plant or our planting conditions, kind of in the soybean planting season. So I think we're going to see more of those acres get planted. And in the big picture, I think that'll show up as in the acreage report at the end of the month, be friendly to the spring wheat, friendly to corn, and a little bit bearish to beans.
Seems like all eyes are on that acreage report coming out on the 30th. I'm guessing between now and then we're going to see a flurry of private estimates coming at us.
Oh, I would bet. Yeah, and they probably will start, middle of next week. I think we've already had Informa come out with their numbers this week, and they're actually showing more corn, less soybeans, and a little less wheat. So we'll see. We'll see who's right on that one.
Yeah, I saw those numbers too. It was a bit of a surprise. Anyway, on the livestock side of things, again, talking weather, we've seen the extreme heat, and social media certainly was going a bit crazy this week with some of the pictures coming out of Kansas and the story of cattle losses. It seems like Packers really had to bid up for some cattle here at the end of the week once again, almost like they did a week ago.
Yeah, and you look at June's going into expiration here the next week. So we need to kind of bring the cash and the futures a little bit in line, and I think that helped to support it. But I think right now, yeah, those pictures were horrible, and it's just the beginning of the heat for a lot of that area down there. So it's likely this is just the beginning of the death losses and the devastation that's going to take place in Kansas and the northern parts of Oklahoma and Nebraska there. So cattle, I'm still friendly to the market. The big thing is we need demand to get going. Domestic demand needs to pick up. Trouble with that is that the average consumer, is being pinched by the higher gas prices, by the higher interest rates, and they don't have as much to spend, and they're not going out to eat as much as they were. So that's what's kind of holding back our domestic demand. And hopefully, we got the perfect storm this weekend. We got Father's Day. We've got a hot forecast and a long weekend. What more talks about grilling than that?
Yeah, let's fire them up and create some demand. How's that sound?
It sounds perfect to me.
Sounds great. Well, again, markets are closed on Monday. We'll be back into trading activity Monday evening and full gear on Tuesday as well. Randy, appreciate the chance to connect.
All right, thank you.
Again, we're visiting with Randy Martinson from Martinson Ag Risk Management. Our market update being brought to you by the good folks at Gateway Building Systems. Keep in mind, for markets and market analysis throughout the week, you can listen to your Red River Farm Network radio affiliate or find our information online as well. I'm Don Wick on the Agweek Market Wrap.